Hello Moto GP fans. Welcome back to ZNGP Today. At Ducati's GP26 launch, Davide Tardozzi set a clear, urgent tone. The centenary is a celebration, but above all it's a reset. He asked for answers from the bike and from his riders, laid out the team's dual task of improving now while preparing for the future, and insisted that balance between Márquez and Bagnaia is both possible and required. We break his message to explain Ducati's posture heading into 2026. Pecco Bagnaia arrives at the 2026 season visibly reset. New number design, focused winter work, and a different mental approach shaped by trusted mentors. In a long, candid conversation, he unpacked what went wrong in 2025, how he's reframed his thinking, and what he expects from the GP26 and the grid. Paolo Campinotti has pulled back the curtain on one of MotoGP's biggest market shocks, Ducati's U-turn over Jorge Martin in 2024. His words paint a picture of promises, pressure, and a human rift that reshaped several teams. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. Tardozzi opened by underlining that the GP26 reveal in Medina di Campiglio marks more than a glossy launch. It is the place where Ducati chooses to begin again. The message is strategic. Rivals have closed gaps under recent rule changes, so yesterday's advantages can evaporate quickly. For Tardozzi, that means engineers, riders, and factory management must treat every test as a fresh hypothesis to be proved or disproved. He stressed structure and urgency. Tighten processes in the wind tunnel, accelerate the feedback loop from rider to engineer, and use the centenary energy to turn incremental gains into race-winning solutions. The tone is constructive, but non-negotiable. Celebrate the history, then earn the next wins. We restarted from Campiglio with the conviction to improve the bike, because all our rivals have improved, taking advantage of the regulations, among other things. On Bagnaia, Tardozzi balanced empathy with expectation. He acknowledged 2025 as a rebuilding year for Pecco but was explicit that Ducati needs the champion they know he can be. The message to Bagnaia was supportive. I trust your speed and intelligence, but also firm. Use the winter, the tests, and the close work with engineers to convert potential into consistent race rhythm. Tardozzi framed this as a two-way contract of confidence. The factory will supply resources, clarity, and patience. The rider must return measurable pace and the composure to exploit it through an entire weekend. For the team, this is less about blame and more about evidence. Results that remove doubts and restore equilibrium to the garage. We're starting again with Mark and the certainty that Pecco is a champion. We hope he's convinced, like us, that he's processed 2025. I trust his speed and his intelligence to manage everything we've discussed. Tardozzi didn't spare anyone the spotlight. He insisted that scrutiny is the natural state at the start of any season. Márquez must reaffirm, Bagnaia must rebuild, and the factory must show it can evolve the bike under pressure. That scrutiny is not punitive, it's diagnostic. By placing all elements under measured observation, Ducati can more quickly identify whether an issue is rider, setup, aero, or tire-related. The language is pragmatic. Performance is answered with data, and the team's job is to convert that data into action. Saying everyone begins, under scrutiny, makes the expectations universal and the accountability shared. Everyone starts under scrutiny, Mark to reaffirm his performance, Pecco to rebuild, just like us to improve the bike. Finally, Tardozzi addressed an ever-popular narrative. Two high-profile riders under one roof equals conflict. He dismissed the melodrama. With professionalism, mutual respect, and clear communication, a garage can host more than one superstar without collapsing into politics. Tardozzi's experience convinces him that intelligent riders and structured team management prevent friction from becoming dysfunction. The implication is practical: manage egos, align objectives, and make the garage a laboratory for collective improvement. That cultural confidence is as important as any technical upgrade. A stable environment lets engineers and riders push harder without the distraction of internal strife. It was incredibly easy. I know it might have attracted media attention, but when you have two intelligent people, everything is simple. Davide Tardozzi's message at the GP26 launch is simple and exacting. Celebrate the centenary, but treat 2026 like day one. The bike must improve, riders must deliver, and the factory must be relentless. His 4 takeaways were clear: reset technically at Campiglio, support and demand results from Bagnaia, subject everyone to productive scrutiny, and keep the garage culture professional. If Ducati marries that discipline with the raw speed it has shown, the centenary party in Misano could be both celebratory and deserved, but only after the hard work of getting the GP26 right, race by race. Bagnaia began by revealing who's helped him most off the bike. He named Valentino Rossi and his trainer Carlo Casabianca as 2 steadying forces during a difficult winter. That admission matters. Rossi's career wasn't only about speed, it was about handling pressure, public scrutiny, and long-term perspective. For Bagnaia, those conversations were therapy and strategy in one, reminders to enjoy the process, to stop punishing himself for every near miss, and to rebuild confidence methodically. This wasn't a PR line, it was a blueprint. Lean on proven experience, reshape your expectations, and walk back into the season calmer and smarter. My 2 role models these past few months have been Valentino Rossi and Carlo Casabianca, his trainer. Bagnaia described the winter as intentional downtime followed by intense preparation. He deliberately disconnected to regain perspective, then returned to structured gym work, data review and careful technical dialogue with engineers. The arc is classic: rest to recover, then focused practice to rebuild form. Importantly, he emphasized the psychological shift, learning to value good results rather than letting them anger him, which changes how he'll approach sprints, qualifying and race weekends. The takeaway: this winter was less about tinkering and more about recentering. I tried to disconnect a bit more. I took more time to think about myself. One of the most honest lines was about attitude. Bagnaia admitted he'd become too critical, to the point that a podium could feel like failure. That kind of hypercritical mindset eats confidence. It turns incremental progress into personal disappointment. His work since then has been about perspective, understanding that 4th or 3rd can be the best available result on a given weekend, and that consistent positives compound into championship momentum. That recalibration, from fury at near misses to gratitude for gains, is often the difference between a rider who rebuilds and one who spirals. There were times last year when a 3rd place finish would infuriate me. Bagnaia closed by surveying the field: no complacency, clear respect for rivals. He called Aprilia and KTM very strong, noted Honda's leap forward, and labeled Yamaha an unknown because of their big project change. That's a pragmatic assessment that does 3 jobs. It warns listeners the season will be competitive, it frames Ducati's work as ongoing, and it sets expectation management for fans. Crucially, he singled out Japan, Motegi, as the place to start again, a tactical marker that shows where he believes a season turnaround becomes credible. Aprilia and KTM were very strong. Honda has taken a big step forward. Yamaha is an unknown quantity. Bagnaia's interview was equal parts therapy session and race plan. He's leaned on legends, reset his mental approach, trained hard, and scoped the opposition honestly. The narrative for 2026 is clear: quieter head, methodical preparation, smarter race-craft. If the GP26 gives him the feel he needs and he converts perspective into pace, we'll see fewer angry reactions and more decisive moves on the podium. For now, Bagnaia has done the work. The tests and the first races will show whether that work sticks. Campinotti begins bluntly. From Pramac's vantage, the promotion of Jorge Martin to the factory Ducati was a real possibility. That possibility shaped planning inside Pramac and beyond, rider negotiations, staff alignment, and even the team's longer-term relationship with Ducati. When a move of that magnitude seems likely, every stakeholder starts to act differently. For Pramac, it meant preparing for transitions that might never fully play out if the factory's final decision shifted. The sense of a concrete, then vanishing option is what feeds the resentment in Campanotti's account. It was possible. Campanotti's next point lands harder. He accuses Ducati of reneging on earlier assurances. Whether motivated by Márquez's stance, internal politics, or commercial pressure, the decision to reverse course forced Martin into immediate choices and left Pramac exposed. That turned a singular rider decision into a cascade: Michelin, sponsor expectations, satellite factory dynamics, and ultimately reshaped where talent and resources landed across the paddock. He refused, and Ducati basically went back on their word. The sting isn't just in the reversal, it's in what that reversal cost: relationships, trust, and a team's strategic direction. Campanotti lays out the terms Ducati reportedly offered. If Márquez wouldn't accept Pramac, Martin would still be promoted to the factory and Márquez would be left out. According to Campanotti, that promise was the fulcrum of the negotiations. When it wasn't honored, Martin reacted quickly, signing with Aprilia, a decision Campanotti frames as emotional, driven by a personal rift as much as professional calculus. That human element, pride, hurt, haste, turned a contractual saga into a reputational episode that reverberated through the grid. They said that if Márquez didn't accept, Martin would still go to the factory team, and Márquez was out. The aftermath was messy and revealing. Pramac pivoted away from Ducati to Yamaha, altering development paths and contributing to a season where the team went from title winners to bottom of the team's standings. Ducati downsized its four-factory bike influence, Gresini stepped in and still delivered strong results, and Martin's Aprilia story was interrupted by injury and later contractual friction. Campanotti's critique underscores a broader truth: single decisions at factory level can remake competitive balance, test team resilience, and change rider careers, sometimes for years. What they said wasn't respected, and Martin basically made this hasty decision there, to sign with Aprilia immediately because it had created a human rift on his part, right? More than a professional one. Paolo Campanotti's account is a reminder that Moto GP's transfer market is as human as it is strategic. What looks like a simple seat swap can hide loyalties, promises, and personalities, and when promises break, the sporting and technical fallout can be seismic. As the 2026 season begins, the Campanotti claim remains a cautionary tale about how decisions made in boardrooms and briefings play out under the bright lights of the paddock. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your Moto GP news update. And see you next time!